Hey everyone, okay, we are live. So thank you so much for coming in to watch this. We're going to talk about a couple of things. Obviously, we're going to take a look and see what's going on with the miners. Hut 8, right? They got a new CEO, Asher Genoot. We're going to talk about that. I listened into the Twitter spaces with him and Sue from Hut 8 as well. I'll give you guys my thoughts on that one as well. And then we'll take a look at DMG and Iris Energy as well, as far as their production updates for January. And then we'll get into the Q&As at the end of the show here. So we're going to try and keep this kind of quick as best as we can. And as always, you guys know the drill here. This is not financial advice for entertainment only. Please do your own research. And I'm invested in following coins and companies for full disclosure. And if you guys enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out tremendously. You know, especially hitting the like button helps me out. So let's take a look at Bitcoin here really quick. What's going on with it? It had actually a really good day today. So did the miners for the most part. A couple of them were down, but Bitcoin was up today quite nicely here. It was up 2.89%, up $1,246. Sorry. It closed at 44,343. We've been kind of bouncing around this 50-day moving average here. We kind of finally closed above it again, and now we're heading up higher potentially to our next resistance, which is going to be right around 45,000. We'll see if we can get past that maybe in the next day or two. Other than that, the miners here were pretty much in the green. There were a couple that were kind of just flat on the day, and there were some that were actually in the red. Some noticeable mentions here. CleanSpark was up 7% here. Iris Energy was up 7.29% as well. And that was pretty much it. Everybody else was just kind of single digits. And then we had obviously Hut 8 being down today on the news of the new CEO being appointed, looks like. Cypher being down 3% and Bit Digital also being down a little bit here. Okay. So let's take a look at Hut 8 here. Obviously, there's a lot of questions here with Hut 8, right? This has been bad news after bad news here, it seems like, for them in the last couple of weeks. And they just can't seem to catch a break here. So I did listen to, well, let me give you guys a little bit of background on Hut 8 as far as what's going on there, right? You also have them dealing with the creditors from Celsius, which is now Ionic, right? So they're all interested in that. And then as far as Hut 8 is concerned, I think most investors are looking at Hut 8 as a leverage play on Bitcoin mining, right? They're not looking at it so much as an infrastructure play on Bitcoin with managed services, hosting, all those things. They're obviously have a huge HODL position here as well. In the 9,000s range for BTC that they hold. So they do have a lot of stuff going for them, but they also have a lot of stuff that's going bad for them. They have an older fleet as well that we'll get into here shortly. Discuss some of their metrics here really quick as well on how things are shaping up. But here's basically my take on it right now. Like I said, I listened to the Twitter spaces with Genoot and Sue from Hut 8, and it sounded like they're putting, at least it sounded to me, I don't know if you guys have the same thought on it, but it sounded like the Bitcoin mining section of the business is being put kind of on the side burner, it looks like, right? I think somebody asked the question of Genoot if they are looking to exchange the old miners that they do have. He kind of went around it, the question a little bit. He stated that they're looking to possibly use those miners for as long as they can. They're going to possibly, what's the word I'm looking here for? Not downgrade them, but they're going to be throttling them down actually. So they're going to do that to make them a little bit more possibly profitable. They're not going to be using like the 35 joules per terahash, but they're going to be maybe in the high 20s potentially. I don't think that was an answer that a lot of people were looking for. I think people were looking for, I was looking for this as well. I was like, and I've been harping on Hut 8 is you have these older miners, you're getting into the halving event, you're going to have trouble with those miners going forward. But it doesn't seem like they look at it that way, which is kind of surprising because they were Bitcoin mining company. Now it seems like they're becoming a managed services and hosting company more so than they are on the for self-mining, it seems like. But that's kind of what I got from it. And then other things that I wrote down here in my notes, I'm looking at my phone right now so I can remember all this stuff, is that, let me see here. So post-merger, right? I kind of tweeted this about on Twitter here this morning that we got the J Capital short report on them, right? And I'd stated at that point, if we start seeing people leaving the company for one reason or another, is there anything that ties into that report? Could be, could not be, right? But it obviously was so quick after that report came out that Jamie Leverton was basically let go and Asher Genoot was taken over. That looks a little suspicious there. Like I said, there's still no mention of the new buying ASICs or increasing their hash rate at all for their self-mining. We know that they are buying, obviously, the, not all this. Oh, I can't remember what that company was called right now off the top of my head. It was the power plants companies. They're buying 4 of those in Canada, so that's good. One of the facilities also had their previous miners in there, so they could utilize that. And the other 3 facilities they would have to buy out. Also, let me see here. Recently, losing managed services business also to 2 facilities that were purchased by Marathon. A kind of thought popped into my head on that one was, did Hut 8 also bid on those facilities potentially? And is it because if they lost that bid, that's why maybe Jimmy is out of there, right? Because Hut 8 paid like 465,000 per megawatt, or maybe 485 or something like that, somewhere around there. And then we saw just recently here, yesterday, CleanSpark report that they're buying, infrastructure for basically like right around 300,000 per megawatt. So did that price get bid up by those 2 parties there? Is that part of the reason as well? Let's see here. Now, like I said, they do have a lot going for them. They're also working with Ionic right now to get those facilities up and running for them. That's going to be important for them. They're getting a lot of money to do that as well. So we'll see. But basically, my overall take from all this is it seems like they're putting the self-mining, Bitcoin mining on a side burner, unfortunately. Let me know what you guys think of that. But let's take a look at some of the things that we do have here for Hut 8 as far as their numbers are concerned here. So some things, like I said, are concerning here, right? If we look at their HODL position, so people are saying they have a huge HODL position, which is great. Yes, they do. Last year in January, it was 9,274. If you look at it going to this year, it's now down to 9,116. So they are selling more recently to cover, I guess, expenses and maybe debt and other things like that. That is continuing to go down. We're also seeing that their production has been coming down here as well. They were in November 390, in January they were at 339. Right? We obviously had December where we had huge BTC fees being added to it, so that added for that. And then when we look at the revenues have been falling down as well. And then as we get into the halving event, those revenues are going to get cut in half. So right now they're making 14 million in January. Come probably not April, but you're looking possibly in May after the halving event, they're going to be down to like 7 million or 6 million just on their, this is just for self-mining. This doesn't include anything else that they do. But on that side of things, that's a huge hit monthly, right? 7 million hit on it. That is a tremendous amount of hit. And if you look how much they've been selling here recently, they've been selling, well, this month in January, they sold almost 18 million roughly by my estimates here. Prior to that, they were selling 16, 13. They're selling more and more of what they had on as far as the HODL position is. So I don't see a way for their HODL to continue to increase unless they start diluting shares for whatever reason, one reason or another, in order to do that. But in order to stay alive, stay afloat, they're going to have to dilute, cut some things potentially, get as lean as they can, obviously, into the halving, or after the halving event, that is. But yeah, I mean, you can just look at the numbers here, and it's not looking good for them, right? That's why we wanted them to do something with the mining that they do have for themselves, the self-mining, increase it, get rid of some of the older miners that they have here. The older miners are pretty old. They haven't done anything in the last like 2 years. If we look at it down here, where are the miners? Down here. So if we open this chart up, unhide all these rows, we see that they have these 77 terahash miners, these 89, 90, 93 terahash miners. There were some 85s in here, 84s as well, that Hut 8 had before being merged with USBTC. So all of those are pretty bad, right? Even if you, not curtail them, but if you throttle them down to where they are still a little bit better joules per terahash, you're going to be making less Bitcoin at that point. So it's really not a win-win situation for you, at least the way I see it. And the thought process is they have about, what is this right here? This was a total of, let's see, petahash here. Petahash would have been about, oh, should have done that this way. If I calculate it this way, it was about 3.3 exahash that they had. Some of the older miners might be already gone, excuse me. So that's fine. But if they at least got newer miners in here, right, the more efficient miners, like the 200 terahash miners, they could have doubled potentially their exahash with the same amount of space that they have right now for these miners allocated, right? So they could have went to 6 exahash plus on top of what USBTC had when they merged. They could be probably closer to like 10 exahash right now instead of sitting on the sidelines not doing anything. I mean, this obviously would have cost them some. If you're looking at 6 exahash, so then you're looking at approximately, what is that? If I do the math in my head, I think you need 5,000 miners per exahash. So 5 times 6, that's 30,000 miners roughly. And then if we do the 30,000 times, let's just say $16 per terahash. So let's do that math really quick. So 30,000 miners times 200 terahash times 16, you're looking at 96 million that they would need to spend on that. And right now, their war chest here is valued at approximately 391 million. Would that be a good use of capital? Potentially, right? Depending where Bitcoin goes in the future, but it would definitely stabilize, I think, the hemorrhaging that they're seeing with Bitcoin's selling and everything else. And then Bitcoin goes up to 100, 150,000, 200, whatever it might be. They could get a nice return on those machines relatively quickly. So that's kind of my thought on it. But let me know what you guys think of that. And let me see if there's anything else I wanted to point out to you guys here. But we'll have to see what their Q4 numbers look like when with the combined company, how much they're actually, what their costs are right now. If we look at their operating costs minus depreciation, they were at Q3 was 20 million here, and this was basically Hut 8 by itself. You add on top of that USBTC, which we know was in trouble financially. That's why Hut 8 loaned them money before the merger so they could stay afloat. And then obviously with the merger, I think they have like over $100 million in debt or something like that. So they got to deal with that as well. So overall, for me, at least right now, based on what I'm seeing, this is possibly not going to be a Bitcoin miner anymore. This is going to be a Bitcoin managed services company with hosting on top of it, right? Which, as we know, those services typically aren't as profitable as when Bitcoin goes into a nice bull rally, which is probably what we're getting into here. Okay, so that is it for that one. Let me know. We'll talk about it in the Q&A section later. I'm sure you guys will have questions on it, but that's kind of my viewpoint on it right now. I'm a little bit surprised, right? I thought the new guy would come in, Asher, and go, heck yeah, we're getting to, we're going to be doing this, this, and this. We're going to be growing. And he sounded very, very on the down low on this part. So I was surprised by it. All right, let's get into the next stuff that we do have here, and then we'll get into the Q&A here. So we'll get DMG. DMG is going to be quick and easy to go through. DMG mined 53 Bitcoins in January, and they had a realized hash rate of 8.89 exahash right now. They did increase their balance on Bitcoin HODL to 468. And then as previously reported, DMG had 3.5 days of substation outage, which negatively impacted January mining results. Notwithstanding this outage, the company is working to operate its fleet closer to its nameplate hash rate of 1.2 exahash. And we've kind of heard that a couple months in a row here. So if we look at DMG here really quick, let's go back. Here we go. DMG, these are numbers from yesterday as far as stock price is concerned. I haven't updated that yet today. So shares outstanding was 167 million. They're valued at 62 million right now. The performance of the last 12 weeks hasn't been that good. You can see that there. They're supposed to get to 2 exahash. They're currently at 1.2, but they're operating at 0.9 roughly exahash on that one. You can see their BTC production has been kind of up and down, more down so recently here, and I think that's because they curtailed quite a bit. But it's down to 53.5. They were at 72.1 in December, and that's based on the network transaction fees being added to it as well. Okay, looking at their HODL position here has increased a little bit to 468 from 455 in December, so that's good. Their best month was in May with 570. And then BTC per exahash efficiency, quite a bit lower than where it was in December. They're down to 44.5 right now. And then their hash rate, you can see here, they've been pretty much flat all year through August. And then in September, they had a nice little bump here to get them to 1.2 exahash. That's what's installed and should be energized, but that's not what they're running at. And then the revenue here has also increased nicely in December to 3.07 million. They're down to 2.3 million now in January. So not looking too good there. The only good thing for them is they are obviously selling, and I think they can possibly manage this pretty well. Because if you see that they're selling 1.74 million in January, multiply that times roughly, well, they sold roughly, what is that? Well, in the last quarter, let's just look at the quarter before. Almost 2 million, 3.5, 2 million. So we're looking at approximately, what is that, 7.5 million. And their costs are minus depreciation, and including depreciation was about 3.94 million. So they should be cash flow positive there. So that's looking good. And then here's what we had for them in January as far as operating. I had them at 22.99 days operating in January. I added about 300,000 in Canadian dollars for transaction fees. That got us down to the 2.29, so almost 2.3 million in revenue, which coincides with what they reported based on the Bitcoin average price in January as well. Okay, now as far as institutions and analysts are concerned, we have still 9 institutions, 2.04 million shares owned by institutions, 1.21%, so that stayed the same. And then we still have pretty much the same buy rating, so 1 buy rating for them. High target went down to 74 cents along with the average and low. And then looking at them going forward, the next 12 months, which is basically 2 months before having event 100%, and then the 10 months after having event 50%, I'm looking at potentially them being at 34 cents to 50 cents. They're currently at 37 cents. I think they're pretty fairly valued at that point, but it also depends where Bitcoin goes. Bitcoin goes up higher. They could be valued obviously much higher than this. And then we got here, if we look at the current quarter that we're in, which is estimated, the previous quarter, Q4, which is estimated, and then the last Quarters prior to that, the last two are actual numbers. We're looking at 52 cents to 78 cents for them. They're at 37 cents. I would say that they're undervalued based on that data. So depending on how you want to look at it, that's kind of the numbers that I'm looking at for them. Okay. The big thing for them is they got to get their operations back up and running more smoothly, getting closer to the 1.2 exahash and then growing to the other 2 exahash, which is based on pretty good miners here. They got some of those T21 miners here, the 190 terahash miners, and they still have these S19 Pro Pluses that they need to get installed and operating as well. Okay, so that is it for DMG in a nutshell. Looking at the next one here, which is going to be an IRES. IRES always provides a lot of great information in these updates, but they don't provide quarterly results, which I wish they would do that because I think that would help their stock. And when we are done with this, you guys will see how undervalued they are. I don't know if it's because of that, plus the contributing factor of them not having a huge hodl. I think that's also impacting it as well. So let's just go over it here. So IRES Energy announces monthly investor update for January 2024. They have a lot of data, like always, which is great. You guys can read over it. I'm just going to go over the highlights here really quick. Average operating hash rate was 5.6 exahash. They mined 341 Bitcoin in that period for January. The cost of electricity has actually increased here. It's electricity cost per Bitcoin, 18.7 thousand right now. I think that was lower the prior month. So I'm surprised that went up. I'm guessing maybe electricity prices went up. Operating capacity increased from 5.6 to 6.2 as of February 6th. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't know when they were operating at 6.2 or did they get that there before the February timeframe. I'm using 6.2 right now. Let's see here, 3.8 exahash to be shipped and installed in coming months, and then 0.9 exahash of Bitmain S21 miners to be shipped shortly. So that's good. That's going to obviously help them get to the 10 exahash that they're targeting here. Overall fleet efficiency to improve to 24.8 joules per terahash, and then we got a lot of data here, and I think I highlighted something else here as well. Here it is. The operations team conducted scheduled substation maintenance work at Prince George in early January, which resulted in a temporary reduction in operating hash rate. And we do have a little bit of a curtailment there for that as well. And I think that's it. But yeah, I mean, they have a lot of data here, so you guys are more than welcome to take a look at it. I just kind of went over the important aspects of it all. While looking in IRES Energy here, they currently have 66.7 million shares. This was as of their, well, these are probably old numbers here for them because they haven't reported in over 6 months. So take that with a grain of salt, okay? As far as market cap is about 256 million, might be higher depending on how much they diluted in the last 6 months. We'll get that updated, obviously, I think next week when they report their numbers. Okay, as far as performance here over the last 12 weeks, hasn't been great at all. They're currently at, I need to update this, at 6.2 exahash. They're getting to 10 exahash, which is bought, and they have obviously options to buy more beyond that. But you can see here that their slower growth over the last 12 months, they've been growing, but it's been slowed. You can see the result of network hash rate increasing. You can see that their production here of Bitcoin has been decreasing, okay? Obviously, we saw a huge increase in Bitcoin in May and in December. That was attributable to the transaction fees for Bitcoin Network on that one. They don't hodl anything. Like I said, that could be also a contributing factor why they are so undervalued right now. And then month-over-month difference, BTC hodl, BTC per X efficiency, pretty efficient, 55, which is pretty good there. A lot of the miners are going to be right around there as well that are efficient. BTC sold, they sell everything. And you can see hash rate. Hash rate has been slowly increasing here over the last basically, what is that, 9 months or something like that. And that's why you're seeing the slow increase is not keeping up with the network hash rate. As a result, you're getting this, right? Bitcoin revenue value. So 16.9, almost 17 million in December, which was a peak for a lot of the miners. January down to 14.6, but which is still good is that they're higher than in November. So hopefully they continue this uptrend for the next month or so until we get to the halving event. Obviously, then it's going to get cut in half for them and everybody else. BTC sold value, how much they've been selling here. And then, like I said, the data that I have for them is about 6 months old as far as quarterly results. We'll get some updated numbers here. We'll have to figure things out. What did we have them here running? So we did, or at least I installed, for January, these 200 terahash miners, these S21s. I'm guessing those are it. They're reporting 28.4. Efficiency of them at 28.5, so that's pretty close. I'm pretty happy with that number. And then I had them running for 29 days out of the month, and then the new machine's running for 20 days, I'm guessing here. And then we added 1.46 million in additional BTC transaction fees into it as well to get the numbers to match up. Okay, so they still have obviously quite a few machines to get installed here in the next, what's it going to be, 4 months roughly. So they do have potentially good growth here, at least happening into the halving event right now. Okay, Institutions did increase to 72. Shares also increased to 18.9 million from 17.7. Percentage owned 29.34 from 27.6. We still have one strong buy rating, 6 buy rating, 0 hold, 0 underperform, 0 sells. Price targets actually went up. I like seeing this to $18.50 from $14 for the high, average to $10.29 from $9.64 and the low stayed the same at $8, which is fine. And then if we look at them here, based on the next 12 months, 2 months before the having event at 100%, and then the 10 months after having at 50%, I still get them to approximately $15.36, $23.03. Yesterday they were at $3.84. They're a little bit higher today. But if we look at the last 3 quarters in the current quarter that we're in currently, which is estimated, Q4 is also estimated, and then I think the prior quarter with them, it's always going to be tricky because they do have every 6 months reporting. Let's just say these are all estimated numbers for the last 4 quarters, basically, or the current quarter we're in the last 3 quarters. Based on that, I'm at $24.11 to $36.17. They're like around $4. Way, 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 way undervalued in my opinion. But the contributing factor to that could be just that they report every 6 months. So if I wish they would start reporting every quarter. I think that would give investors a little bit more confidence in their financials and everything else. That would be a good thing. And then maybe if they change their mind on HODL, I think that might help a little bit here, especially as we get into the halving event. That would be a good thing. But overall, it's nice that they are growing into the halving event. They are operating very well. They have a pretty good growth plan going forward. So I'm just surprised that they are where they are right now because they're at 6.2 exahash and they're valued at 256 million. The closest one to them at 6 right now, I think might be Bitfarms. If we look at Bitfarms, where Bitfarms is valued at, yeah, Bitfarms is at 6.5. They're valued basically, was it 2.5 times more per market cap? So definitely way undervalued from where they should be. Bitfarms is undervalued too from where they really should be, but that's neither here nor there, okay? That's Iris Energy in a nutshell also. So that covers all of that. And then I forgot to show you guys something for Hut 8, which I think is also important and ties into their numbers here for as far as profitability on the miners that they do have. So we've looked at this chart before. This is basically stating that Bitcoin price gets to 45,000 after the halving event. Network hash rate is going to get to 605 exahash at that point. Block reward was going to be 450. This does not include any Bitcoin transaction fees in here at all. I may add that going forward just to kind of see where things would add up there. But currently, you can see with the fleet that Hut 8 has at 5 cents, which was reported, what they're basically reporting as, they would be only profitable at 55,000 at that point for Bitcoin. Okay, that's an issue. That is definitely an issue for them. The only one worse than that right now is, well, you got Argo. Argo's going to need Bitcoin at 69,000. Sphere potentially at, what is that going to be, 61,000. And then a lot of these guys are doing a little bit better here than they are, based on my numbers that I have and the fleet efficiencies that they have just for self-mining, right? This does not include anything else. Okay, so that is it. Let's get into the Q&A here. So if we do that, let me jump in here. We'll leave that open. All right, perfect. So I'm going to get this going here for the Q&As. Get your questions ready. Please type question in big bold letters so I can see it. Let's see here. So if you guys have any questions, this is going to be a little bit delayed for me. I'm looking at them right now. Let's see here. Okay. So here's one. Let's see if this one will pop up. There we go. So Scott asks, sorry, sub just got here. Could you comment on CleanSpark butt kick the last 2 days and Bitcoin moves close to 45,000? Yeah, so I didn't mention this in this video, but basically CleanSpark has already installed 2 exahash of their miners just recently here. Within the last 2 days, yeah. So they still have about another 2.4, 2.6 exahash to get installed, and then they're waiting for some more miners or some other technical issues that are going on there. So we'll find out on that one. Let's see here. All right. Scott also asks, any guess on CleanSpark earnings effect on share price reporting tomorrow? I mean, they had a really good December numbers, so I'm kind of guessing that they might have an actual positive EPS, but it all depends on how much they put in for the not dilution, but what is that word? I can never remember that word. Where they are the miners, they're writing off the miners. What is that? I can't remember what that's called. Get too many things in my mind. Which you guys, you know what I mean. Basically, if they keep that low, I think they might be EPS positive, but we'll see. Okay, let's see. What else do we have here? See if I can find a question here. Uh, see, this one's lagging a little bit. Why is it lagging? There we go. Okay, so W Song asks, how do I feel about Hut 8 change of CEO? I was shocked by it, to be honest. I didn't think they were going to do it that fast after this report that came out from J Capital, and especially so soon after they merged, right? They only merged a couple months ago. It's like Jamie didn't have a chance to even do whatever she wanted to do with the company, or I guess there were some issues going on, and she got ousted, basically, and Genoot took over. But I was just surprised by it. I wasn't also very impressed with what he had to say on Twitter Spaces today. Like I stated earlier, I just doesn't seem like they're really pushing forward with this whole Bitcoin self-mining thing. So I was surprised by that. And we just looked at some of the numbers there. The numbers don't look good for them if they continue to go the route that they are with the self-mining. There. Jen asks question, what's your thoughts on Wolf? Wolf, I think Wolf, the only issue with them is the debt. Other than that, they have pretty great operations. They need to get that debt resolved as fast as they could, as fast as they can. They have to pay 40 million of it by April 1st. They can do that. I think then afterwards they're going to possibly restructure the debt, extend it out for another couple of years. And at that point, I think that would be a little bit better for them, right? Right now they're paying quite a bit in interest, and that's going to definitely hurt them come having event if they have to do that. Let's see here. Steven says, Hut has made it through other bear markets. I wouldn't write them off. They are one of the pioneers in the mining. BlackRock owns shares in them. Yeah, I'm not writing them off. I'm just saying that they are like pivoting over into the other spaces, which is the managed services along with hosting, right? It seems like they don't want to, Asher kept saying, you know, how capital intensive the self-mining business is of things, which it is, but there's also rewards for that when we are in this kind of bull run. So you got to take the one with the other. And it seems like they're kind of being more cautious with that, it seems, and getting into the other businesses which are less capital intensive, right? But you also have less revenue from those. So it's basically they're trying to even out the revenue stream over the long term instead of having these up and downs with the cycles of Bitcoin. But that might also change with Bitcoin because you're not taking into account possibly the Bitcoin transaction fees adding on a huge addition to that, right? We've seen it already in November, December. We're seeing it in January a little bit as well. We're seeing it this month some more as well. So even if the Bitcoin price gets cut in half to, or not price gets cut in half, Bitcoin block rewards get cut in half to 3.125 come halving, you still might get 1 to 2 extra Bitcoins added into those block rewards for the miners. So it may not be as bad, right? It might be actually to the point eventually where the Bitcoin block rewards with the transaction fees are a lot better. And that's going to really help all the miners out. That's kind of what I'm thinking at it. What else do we have here? Okay. Super interested in your short to mid-term price targets for Iris Energy. Do you think they could reach their IPO price again? I can't remember what their IPO price was at that point, but I have them right now. I just looked at the numbers here. Let me pull that up. Or did I have them over here? We just kind of covered it. My price targets on them, let's see here, currently is between, basically on the low side, between $15 and $23 of things, right? But they could be higher depending where Bitcoin goes at that point. Have you seen anything on the mandatory reporting of energy, etc.? No, there are companies that are kind of, they're not really saying it, but you get the feeling that they are trying to maybe go against this one way or another, whether it's legal, with legal means. But it is just way too overreaching, I think, as far as what they're asking in there. Next resistance here. So what is the next resistance for Bitcoin? 45,000 looks like it on the charts. We just looked at it in the beginning there. We'll have to see if we get past that. I think that's going to be the battle. Next one we're going to battle, really. Let's see here. Did you add any CleanSpark shares before the earnings? No, I couldn't. Well, not that I couldn't. I could if I wanted to, but I didn't have the cash to do it. Just had a lot of expenses here recently. Not happy about it. I would have rather put it into the mining stocks than do what I had to do. So that's that. Let's see here if there's any other questions. What else do we have here? All right, here we go. Why is Cypher trading so low? So Cypher was trading low because of the amount of shares that Bitfury had on them. They had over like 75% of the shares held in basically one entity. The concern there was, and we've seen this already with Bitfury, they sold like 10 million shares. When was that, in November, October? I can't remember exactly when, but they sold 10 million shares. That obviously dropped the stock price pretty badly. And the concern there was that if they do it again, it's going to keep the price target or price down suppressed. So Bitfury recently stated that they are going to be giving the shares out to their shareholders in dividends, which is then going to take the ownership from one entity to over a little bit over 100 people or something like that are going to get the shares based on the proportion that they have in the interest in Bitfury. So I think that should appease or at least alleviate some of the pressure there on Cypher right now. So it should start to possibly go back up. Let's see. Okay, this is a tough question. What are your thoughts on Riot? Would you liquidate shares in order to accumulate more shares in IREN or Bitfarms? Okay, Riot is also in growth mode. They have that facility, Corsicana, I think it's called. All these companies call their sites all these different names. But they have a potential get to 1 gigawatt of power there, right? That power, we'll have to see if they can actually manage to get the PPA or the contract for that for the full 1 gigawatt. If they can, they are going to be mining like crazy over there. Because what we've seen here with their current facility that they have in Rockdale is they either have contract for X amount of watts that they can use at a certain price. If they go above that, they start paying the market price, and that's why we're seeing possibly curtailment there. Plus they have BitDeer right down the street from them, and they're using the same substation on that. Is that affecting it? Could be. Not sure. Let's see here. All right, next question. We got it. What's the next big key events for miners? It feels like we have make or break scenario coming shortly. Well, the make or break scenario is going to be the halving event. You're going to see some miners go under because of it, because their revenues going to get cut in half, right? And if they're not efficient, they don't have the latest generation miners. All that stuff's going to play into it. So I think that's really the make or break part of it there. Ryan asks, who are the largest individual owners of Bitfury? I have no idea. I think Bitfury, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but I think Bitfury is still a private company. Correct me if I'm wrong there. So it's unknown as far as who the largest holders are there. Any update on Bitfarms? Nothing new other than what we already discussed with them on their production updates when they reported on the first day of the month like they always do. So not much there. They're growing. They're expanding, doing all the things that they need to do. And then let's see. You guys have any other questions? If not, we'll call it a day, I think. I don't see anything else popping up. Oh, there we go. We got one more coming in here. By the time it gets up to here, there we go. All right. What are your thoughts going into the halving up or down? Well, we still have basically what, a month roughly? Not even that, 69 days. I think today was like 69 days from the halving event. So a little bit more than 2 months from that. We are seeing Bitcoin starting to go up. Miners are starting to kind of go up a little bit. I would expect a little bit of a pullback possibly happening in the next 2 months, potentially, before we start going into the bull run after the halving event. But we'll see. I mean, last halving cycle, we saw the miners going down. Bitcoin was actually going up in that time frame. We're not seeing that, mainly because the spot Bitcoin ETF kind of threw everything off. So we're dealing with that as best we can. But, you know, if you get a buying opportunity, buy on those dips. And then just obviously wait for a couple more months after that, 8 to 18 months before we get a new all-time high in Bitcoin, and might be doing pretty good. Let's see here. All right, guys, I think that's it. I don't see any other information there. So, as always, thank you so much for coming in here to watch these, to ask the questions. I hope you guys learned something from this. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope it's not a waste of time for you guys. As always, spreadsheets are available to my Patreon members. As always, it's $8 there. Link is in the description for you guys there if you want to join that. Helps me out there. Also, with you guys hitting the like button, smashing the like button, helps me out. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the, well, it's evening now, night. Wow. Day's gone too fast. There's just too much going on today. So thank you again for coming in. Wish you guys a great night. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then.